Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel or that white chocolate mocha. Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
Those guys are never rattled, like never. No matter how big the moment is in the game, no matter how clutch the moment is, no matter how bad something happened, those guys never seem rattled. They're always able to keep calm, keep cool. And that's taught me a lot. I believe as a coach, hey, be you, be who you are. But at the end of the day, man, when you can stay calm, relaxed in any situation, I'm a firm believer that your players see that as well.
On today's episode of the Coaching Coordinator Podcast, we talk with Brandon Blackman, who is the defensive coordinator at Delaware State. He's had an interesting journey, had some very recognizable mentors along the way, now working with first-time college head coach, but certainly we've known his work in the NFL and what he's done as a player, Deshaun Jackson. So there's a lot to dig into here today. And Coach Blackman isn't just calling plays. He's building a defensive culture from the ground up. And we're going to dive into his elite mentors, his high expectations, and how different things that he does on the field, like situational football, are a big part of what he's doing.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
Coach Blackman, thanks for taking the time. It's great to have you here on the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So I mentioned some of those mentors. You've worked under some NFL and Power 5, Power 4 now, football minds like Herm Edwards, Marvin Lewis, Antonio Pierce, Billy Napier. Just an incredible lineup of guys right there for any one person to work with individually. You've worked with all of those guys. So I'm sure that's shaped the way that you do things today. I would love to hear about those influences and what those guys have meant to your development.
Yeah. One of the big things that a lot of those guys did for me was just teach me the game, just overall, just teaching me the game. But more importantly, how to conduct yourself within the game, how to be organized, how to make sure that you're a good teacher, with the players, and how to understand everything that's going on in the game. And so many, that's the one amazing thing about football is there's so many moving parts. And when you're able to make sure that you focus on getting your part to understand their job, go out there, perform at a high level and execute, you're going to give yourself a chance. And so now that I'm in a position as a defensive coordinator, there's a few more parts that I control outside of just, my position group. And so it's just taking all those lessons that I've been taught with organization and leadership and all those abilities and just putting them all together and now having the show go out there and run. And so it's been really good and I'm excited.
When you look at those coaches we mentioned, what do you feel are some of the traits that they have in common?
When I talk about Billy Napier, Antonio Pierce, Herm Edwards, the first thing that comes out of my mind is poise. Those guys are never rattled, like never. No matter how big the moment is in the game, no matter how clutch the moment is, no matter how bad something happened, those guys never seem rattled. They're always able to keep calm, keep cool. And that's taught me a lot. I believe as a coach, hey, be you, be who you are. But at the end of the day, man, when you can stay calm, relaxed in any situation, I'm a firm believer that your players see that as well. And so if we're in a tense situation, the crowd's yelling at us, your mom's yelling at you, but you see your head coach, your DC, some of your star key players on the team, everybody staying poised, you got a shot. And so that's, something that I've learned from those guys. You don't have to be the guy that's just jumping down everybody's throat every single second, man. Sometimes it's good to just sort things out, be calm, focus, see what's going on, go to the next play. And so that's something that I'm very fortunate that I learned from a lot of those guys.
So those certainly are good things to have in mind with what we're doing. But now in a new program you're in at Delaware State, how do you instill that kind of mentality? How do you make sure that these guys who, you guys are coming together for the first time with this program, so guys coming from all kinds of different places, different kinds of experiences and perspectives, that they are able to be that poised, composed player on game day? How is that installed?
Yeah, it's, I think of like some of my favorite coaches that are in the NFL right now. You look at Dan Campbell. If you go watch Hard Knocks, you want to go run through a wall for that guy because you see the passion and the intensity that the guy has, but he allows his players to be themselves. And you could tell there's some relationships that were built in that organization to get those guys to play the way they are. And so I do the same thing. When I first got here, the very first thing before you even talk scheme, football, anything else, I met with every single one of my defensive guys one-on-one. One-on-one, we sat down, we talked life, then we talked football. And it was just a way for me to get to know these guys before I stand in front of the whole defense and say, I'm Coach Blackman, your defense coordinator. No, 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 no. We already had a one-on-one conversation. So what that does is it breaks down those walls, it breaks down those barriers. I see what this guy is about. And I was able to talk about my philosophy. I was able to talk about who I am as an individual, what my expectations are. But also I was able to hear from these young men, what are your goals? What are you chasing after? So now that I know that, I can hold you accountable. And so if a young man tells me, Coach, I want to be the best this year, I want to be all conference. Well, you better believe then on them days when you don't feel like practicing, I'm going to hold you accountable because you're the one that said you want to be the best. And so sometimes I got to stick my size 12 shoe up somebody's butt and let them know, hey, you're the one that said you want to be the best, so let's do it. And so for me, it's been really good. I've been under a lot of coaches with a lot of different personalities, even outside of some of my mentors. I saw some things that I liked and I saw some things that I didn't like. And one of the biggest things that I'll say that has become my favorite is, man, relationships. This game is about trust, man, because it's no different for me than as a coach. I'm not going to put you in the game in a critical situation unless I trust you. Well, you're not going to listen to me as your coach unless you trust me. And when I can create that buy-in with these guys, I think it just goes a whole lot longer. It goes a longer way. And so I've been fortunate to where I've told guys when I got here, okay, this is our plan. This is who we need to be. What happened in the past, I don't care anymore. We're not going to sit around blaming people for what happened, what hasn't happened. It's about the now. So it's just getting guys to transform their minds and understand, okay, regardless of what happens, we're focused on this. We got tunnel vision. And so now we have to be focused. And so it's training those guys every single day. This is the mission. This is the mission. This is the mission. Okay, it's 35 degrees outside. It's 25 degrees the next day. Okay, now it's sunny the next day. I don't care. The mission is the mission, and we got to stay focused. And so that's the big thing. And yeah, I am a poised guy, but I'm demanding too. And so you have to be very demanding with these kids because if you give them an inch, they will take a mile. And so it's just getting these guys that want to play for you, want to play hard, but also getting them to understand why I'm pushing you hard, because what you did in the past or what you think is going to get you there, it's not enough. And so we got to be able to do a little bit more. And so that's where I try to get these guys to just believe me and believe in our system, our coaches. And that's how we get them playing hard around here.
Building trust is, it's not a black and white thing all the time. There's a lot of gray areas, and there's going to be situations where I think both sides maybe get a little bit disappointed, and it's all about the communication. You can't just say, well, you did this wrong. I don't trust you anymore, and I'm done with you. I'm going to move on to somebody else that I can trust more. You got these players, you're coaching them all year long, and that's your responsibility as a coach, that you have those opportunities. Maybe you miscommunicate. Maybe they don't understand something as well, but the trust isn't always going to be, 100%. You have to build it. You have to work at it. You have to keep getting those reps at it. So in those situations where maybe things didn't go right, you feel like I am losing a little bit of trust in this guy, or maybe he doesn't understand what I'm trying to say and he doesn't trust me yet. How do you remedy those situations? How do you continue to build when there's that little bit of adversity in that relationship?
Well, the first thing, you can't dodge confrontation. You can't dodge those hard times. If there's an issue or something going on with a player or even a coach, you got to just hit it right on the head. What happens is when you don't, and I've been guilty of it even in my career as a coach and a player, sometimes when you don't hit those critical situations that happen where there's a little bit adversity within the relationship, it's like a snowball effect. It just keeps getting worse, worse, and worse to where two people they're flat out not even talking to each other anymore. And then when they're not talking to each other, they don't believe in each other. And so what that happens is it kind of creates this negative atmosphere. And that's why I think it's very critical. If there's one thing I've learned in my career, and to be honest, Coach Jack does probably the best I've seen and a lot of guys that I've been around, man, if there's ever any adversity, ever anything that happens, man, we got to hit it fast and we got to get on it right now. We can't let it linger around. And so, that's been one of the biggest things that I've learned is the longer you let bad things happen, it's just going to turn into a snowball and it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as a problem. And so you got to get on it now and squash everything and again get back to where the focus is at. And so that's one of the big things. And also, man, this is college football. We're big boys. Man, we can't be walking around mad at each other. Like, you got to figure this thing out. If not, we're all not going to be here very long.
That's right. That's right. So, Coach, when you look at things that give you the edge, especially from the cultural standpoint, mindset and identity are so important. Those things bring everything you're doing in the classroom, in the walkthroughs, on the field. It brings it to life in a way that is uniquely your program. So what is that mindset, that mentality, that identity you're working to develop in your unit?
Coach Jack always says this quote, feet on land. And, it's really grown throughout our program. And he also says the standard is the standard. And so when you combine those two things, man, be where you're at right now. Don't worry about what's going on around you. Just be where you're at. Don't focus on who's getting this or who's getting that. Don't focus on how bad your situation is. Be present where you're at. And when you can do that, when you can learn to be comfortable sometimes being uncomfortable, you're going to give yourself a chance. And so, you have to do a good job of understanding, man, there is a standard. There's a right way and there's a wrong way of doing things. And for us as coaches, when you're trying to create a new culture, a new mentality, there's a way to do things. And if things are up here above the line, that's good. Anything below that line, you got to check it and you got to check it fast. Because if not, like I said, it'll be a snowball effect again to where it becomes a bigger and bigger program. Because if you keep letting things slide, you're going to be in a bad situation. And that's why, Todd Graham, who I worked for at one point in time, he used to always walk around the building saying, you're either coaching it or you're allowing it. And so you got to make sure, man, you're coaching up things always and you're not allowing those bad things to kind of go through. And so we do a lot here outside of the game of football to help these young men, because it's crazy. A lot of these young men today, they don't even believe in themselves. And I don't know if it's because of social media or they don't feel that they're as good enough as somebody. And so sometimes we got to spend more time building these young men up that, man, hey, today I'm going to teach you what your job is. I'm going to help you study it. And let's make sure we go out there. I want you to feel like Superman. Go out there and make some plays, man. Cut it loose. If you make a mistake, we'll figure it out. But go out there and execute, man. And so that's a lot of it, man. It's just in this mentality. It's just, again, it just falls down to, man, no matter what the situation is, man, we're here, we're present, we're going to get through it. We're going to do things the right way. No matter how bad it gets, we're not going to look for a shortcut. And when you do that, man, you start seeing a few changes. And that's what happened throughout spring ball. We started seeing guys not cutting corners, doing things the right way, not looking for an easy way out. It started showing on the field with their performance.
What's that specific identity or whatever you might call it? Everybody has a little bit to their branding a little bit, but the identity for your defense. What are the things you are looking for those guys to be?
Yeah. Well, the nickname of our defense is the Swarm Squad to be exact. And with that, when you think about Swarm, it's no different than I tell my players. It's funny because we got a lot of little hornets out here all over the place. It's crazy, man. If you swipe at a hornet, if you try to step on a hornet, man, those things get pissed off and they are relentless. They're going to start coming at you. And then next thing you know, the whole squad's coming at you full speed and they're coming to attack you. And so that's the mentality of this defense. Man, you got to be pissed off, man. I mean, this team went 2-22 in the last 2 years. So you got to be pissed off knowing that, again, that standard has not been where it's needed to be. And so now you got to start being mad and realize, man, enough is enough. It's time to start stepping up to the plate and making plays, coming together as a defense and flying around, knocking the hell out of people. And so that's the big thing, man. And this mentality over here, man, it's a relentless one. It's a blue collar one. Man, you show up to work and you got to be ready to go. And so it starts with me as the DC, my staff, they do a really good job at just enforcing, man. Anytime you step between those lines, anytime you're in this building, man, it's straight work. It's all business. And so that's what I've been teaching these guys, man. Just have a strong blue collar mentality and understand everything is going to have to be earned. Nothing is going to be given to us.
We've talked a little bit about Coach Jackson. You've mentioned him a few times. I think this is a very unique situation you guys have. You have somebody who obviously has performed and played at the highest level, but is new to coaching, was coaching high school ball last year at his college level for the first time. Obviously, he got this job because of the leadership skills he has. You're coming to Delaware State with a ton of experience. How do you see your role in being able to work alongside Coach Jackson and help him shape this program?
The first thing that I've noticed about this guy is being a new head coach. He already, and I don't know if it just comes from his playing days, but this guy walked in the building and he walks around like a head coach. Like you just don't sense that this is a first timer right here. This guy, he just, heck, the guy played for Andy Reid, Sean McVay, so he's seen it done the right way. But it's just been crazy, man. Again, I've worked under Herm Edwards, Billy Napier, Bobby Wilder, who's changed so many programs, Todd Graham. I've seen how these guys move around, Marvin Lewis. I've seen how these guys operate. And it's just so amazing, man. When Coach Jack walks in the building, yeah, he's got a little swag to himself too now. No, let's not get it twisted. But man, he takes the building like a head coach. He walks around, everything is organized. He's always explaining how he wants things done, getting his message across, and he's very transparent, and he doesn't miss anything. I always kind of joke with him sometimes. I'll be out in the field, I'll be yelling at my players over scheme and all this stuff. And Coach Nemo, he'll be our offense coordinator, he'll be yelling over scheme and all that. Coach Jack, man, he just sees that flow of practice like a real head coach. And he's just seeing all the little details, seeing if guys are running from drill to drill, and just seeing all those little things that all the great head coaches are able to see most of the time. That part has been really impressive to me and how honest he is. And so what's been awesome for me, though, is I have worked for all these great head coaches. So I have been around the college game. And so he's really good at, he's not the type of person where he just sits in that chair and says, man, I know it all. I got all the answers. He's never afraid to say, hey, what do you think about this situation? Or how have you handled this situation in the past? And that's where I've came in. I learned a lot last year. I got to work under Bobby Wilder, who was the head coach at Old Dominion, Maine, just a guy that's been known for flipping programs. And that opened up my eyes, man, just seeing how organized and detailed that guy was and how he's always focused, not necessarily on the final goal, but the process of what it takes to win. And so with Coach Jack, that's been a lot of it. What is our process for recruiting? What is our process for getting ready for practice? And then being on the field, how are we getting our players around? Where is everybody strategically supposed to have their drills, all those little things. And so putting that all together, Coach Jack has just allowed me to really help be a focal point and giving great insight on how to run this program, how to get the AD, who's done a great job with us, the strength training, academics, the athletic training department, how to get everything aligned. That's where I've been really blessed to where I could help. And so it's starting to show when you start getting everybody aligned right down one line, man, it's been really good. And so it's been good. And, recruiting's been fun with them too as well, because it's, hey, here's the rules. This is what the NCAA is saying. Here's things that we can do. Here's things that we can't do. And it's been really good just going through that process with him. And it's actually been a lot of fun, to be honest.
Looking at that idea of alignment, I think it's so important. And again, that's a relationship thing too, because you have two distinctly different sides of the ball. And then the third phase too. And everybody's got to work together. You, however, have perspective because you've coached on the other side of the ball. How has that helped you in your role in what you're doing as a defensive coordinator, maybe to better understand the things you need to do to support them and maybe even ask for some of the things you need from them to support what you guys are doing on defense?
So when I left, let me see here. When I left, I was coaching junior college football, Orange Coast College in California. I was the defensive backs coach for the last 3 years. When I left from there, I went to Arizona State University to coach the tight ends. And so that really opened up my eyes because Billy Napier was our offensive coordinator at Arizona State. And again, when Billy Napier came in, he had just left the University of Alabama. And so for me, I mean, you talk about a transition going from a defensive-minded guy to now you're coaching the tight ends. And a lot of people don't understand sometimes, the tight ends, they got to be in sync with the offensive line. But then also when they start releasing for passes, they got to be in sync with the wide receivers and the quarterback. And so you end up learning the whole complex of the offense, the whole organization of the offense, to where there were things that I thought I knew that I didn't know. And so when you start working with tight ends, you got to be really good with pass protection. You got to understand when there's a blitz coming, how are we picking that blitz up? When we release for passes, there's certain details with route running. There's certain details that with certain steps and landmarks that tight end has to be at, because if not, you're going to get your quarterback killed. And so if a route is 5 steps, man, it better be at 5 steps. If a route is at 4 steps, it better be at 4 steps. Because if you run it at 6 steps when it's supposed to be 4 steps, that quarterback's going to get killed because everything's based off of timing. And so that taught me a lot, because one thing that you have to do when you're on offense is you got to scout the heck out of the defense. And looking at it from an offensive perspective on all the different ways of how a defense is trying to attack you in certain situations really opened up my eyes. And it showed me that, there's defenses that just sit there and do what they do and are really good. Then there's also defenses that throw a whole lot at you and they struggle because they're doing too much, And so I've been able to see the different complex of different defenses. And so that was really eye-opening for me because, man, coaching offense is hard, man. Putting together an offensive drive is not easy, and especially when you're not getting explosives. That means that we got to put together a 10 to 12 play drive, which means all 11 guys on the offensive side have to execute for 10 to 12 play. That's hard to do. And so it taught me a lot. But again, like I said, it just taught me on how the offense works and the organization of it, where certain things should be and where they shouldn't be. And so I think that's helped me a lot as a defensive coordinator, because now when I look at an offense, I understand how they're trying to block inside zone, outside zone, duo, power, and so I understand versus an underfront, this is how they're going to block it versus an overfront, things that I didn't quite understand when I was just a defensive coach, or if you're showing a mug look, this is how they're going to handle it. And so those are all things that I had to learn. I'm telling you right now, when you work under Billy Napier and he brings in that Alabama offensive playbook, you better strap on and get ready to work, because that's a pretty thick playbook. And so, and there's a lot of terminology. And so I had a lot of learning to do, a lot of learning. But it just goes to show like the details. Those guys flew in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tight ends coach. They flew that guy in so I could sit with him and talk football for 3 weeks in the summer. Who does that? And so that those are the details that those guys had, man. But no, I've learned a lot, and it's opened my eyes up a lot coaching tight ends, wide receivers. It's opened my eyes up a lot on how to read scheme and how to beat scheme, how to attack scheme. And so that's been a big thing for me.
Yeah, definitely understanding all the context of the game is so important to the success of what we do. And in that, a big contextual thing is situational football. When you look at that part of the game, before we got to talking, you and I were just going through, like I told you, when I played high school football, I mean, the ball was always in the same spot. And you knew back then, too, you knew the teams that were doing that. And I don't think anybody was really situational focused back when I was playing in the high school ball in the 80s. I mean, it's put the ball down and run plays, and you never had the chains out there, those kinds of things. And I think we're doing a better job of this. I see it in our program, but it's still that understanding, not just that it is third down, but what does it mean? What are the specific things we need to accomplish? And I think that's one area where I think everybody at every level can always get better at, is understanding the situational side of it. So how do you treat that? What's some of the philosophy, I guess, and things that you like to do to make sure that your guys are prepared for situational football on game day?
Yeah. One of the easiest situations I'll give you, like here's one, for example, coming out. When the offense is coming out, but not only coming out, but when they're backed up inside the 10-yard line. There comes a time where now, as a defense, you have to decide who do you want to be in that situation, but also who are they in that situation. And traditionally, you see a lot of offenses when they're backed up inside the 10, sometimes they'll take a shot at you. Just because they're backed up doesn't mean they're going to ease up. And so that's where you have to teach players, okay, what is the identity of this offense when they're backed up inside the 10-yard line? And so obviously we got to tell the D-line, hey, watch the hard count. They might try to get some cheap yardage. If they can go ahead and give us a hard count and get us to jump off sides, well, the first thing that's going to happen is we just gave them free yardage. But then also, if one of our defensive linemen jump off sides, they now have a free play where they could just chuck it up for a deep ball. And what if our DBs don't understand on a free play that, hey, that receiver that's running downfield, if he catches that ball, that play counts. And so it's really trying to teach all the young men, hey, this is a situation we got to be good at in football. Because, Coach, why is this important? Understand, if they're backed up inside the 10 and we go 3 and out and they have to punt the ball, well, the average punt is about 35 to 40 yards. We have now flipped the field position to where our offense is now going to get the ball on the 50, 55, 50, yard line, to where now they don't have to travel down the field as far as they would if the offense had moved up the field. And so it's trying to get young guys to understand those situations because, man, they're really important. Really important. And so it was a time I remember last year, one of my corners, we were playing against Georgia. And again, you talk about when the defensive line jump off sides in a coming out situation. One of our guys jumped off sides. One of their wide receivers took down the field. Carson Beck threw a deep ball, and one of our corners made a really good play. One of their good receivers down the field. That could have been disastrous. And so, again, it's about teaching these young men these situations, because if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to give the offense cheap yardage. You're going to give them free plays, and that will hurt you badly in games, because a lot of times, if you look at a lot of football games, sometimes it comes down, especially in these tight ball games, it comes down to about 5 plays that really change the game. And you better make sure you're on the right end of those. And so we try to go over all those situations with these guys. 2-minute, third down, red zone, coming out, 4-minute, all those situations are really critical. And even base downs. Base downs are important because sometimes you got to ask, okay, guys, what is an efficient run for the offense on first down? Some guys might say 6 yards and yes, that's good. But actually, heck, if the offense is getting 4 yards every time they run the ball on first down, now they're looking at 2nd and 6. And it's a whole lot easier to move the ball on 2nd and 6 than it is, shockingly, than 2nd and 7 or 2nd and 8. And so it's just, again, teaching guys those little details, those little situations. And so how do you work on that? You have to practice those situations. There has to be segments in practice where it is coming out. It is backed up. It is 3rd and 3, 3rd and medium, 3rd and long. There's situations that you have to be good at. And so we work on that stuff, but we also educate our young men on that stuff all the time.
Yeah, putting it into the practice schedule certainly is important, but I think you hit on something there that they're being educated on it. So, what are the things, or how do you do that out on the field? Hey, we're working a 3rd down period, or we're coming out, or whatever it might be, that the communication that goes along with it is there. And maybe not just from you guys, probably more importantly from the guys who are going to be out on the field, that they understand how to communicate that and what they are communicating in those situations.
Yep. So one of the big things is, I'll talk about 3rd down, for example. In this defense, we have to communicate. Everybody has to be on the same page. And so what you do is, I actually learned this working under Billy Napier. Herm Edwards did it as well. You have certain guys on the field that are actually responsible for certain assignments. So, for example, obviously our Mike backer, his assignment on every single play is to align and set the front. That's his number one job, set the front. Well, with our safeties and our corners, the guys that are closest to the sideline, I make sure that at least one of those two, they're looking at the down and distance, but they're also looking at, is it 2nd down or is it 3rd down? If it's 3rd down, the money down, I need somebody to be yelling out to the rest of the defense, hey, it's 3rd and 5, 3rd and 5. Or it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 8. And we have certain code words that we use to determine whether it's 3rd and short, 3rd and medium, or 3rd and long. And so when we're saying that to the whole defense, it's getting guys to understand this is the situation that we're in. For example, if it's 3rd and 2, we're going to say a certain word that makes sure the whole defense understands it's 3rd and short. But again, why is that important? Well, you don't want your corners playing off on 3rd and 2. You don't want your corners playing off 8 yards, and then they're giving up the 1st down because all they do is throw a slant and it's a 1st down. And so again, it's getting guys to understand everything about the certain down and distance. Like, for example, when do you not want your corners to press? That's a big thing on 3rd down. If it's 3rd and 15, I mean, hey, guys, if you want your corners to still stay up there and press, hey, have at it, But hey, why not play off? Keep everything in front. And so there's certain things on 3rd down that have to be discussed as a staff to make sure everybody is aligned and on the same page. But then in your meetings, you have to make sure that you go over all those little small details on 3rd down, because that's a big down. Anytime you win or lose a ball game, you always come back and you look at how successful were we as a defense on 3rd down. If we're not getting off the field on 3rd down, it's a long day. And then it also comes down to what kind of 3rd downs are they getting into a lot? Is it a lot of 3rd and shorts? Is it a lot of 3rd and mediums? Is it a lot of 3rd and longs? What are we calling? Like, for example, I'll look at the call sheet and say, what did I call this last 3rd and long? What did I call the next one? Because you want to make sure, too, teams are scouting you and they're trying to figure out what you're doing. And so you can't just be a one-trick pony on 3rd down. You got to be exotic a little bit. You got to show different looks. And so that's where, again, in the meeting rooms, you got to do a good job of educating these young men. This is who we are on 3rd down. This is how we're going to mix it up. These are all the different looks that we're going to show. But at the end of the day, we can't jack up ourselves. And so we got to make sure we're sharp. We understand the situation. We know our assignments and we know how to do it. We got to make sure we're sharp. We understand the situation. We know our assignments and we know how to do it.
Coach, last question to wrap up here. What's one book or quote or mindset that you feel every coach needs to have to be able to be successful in this profession?
It's probably going to end up being, Nick Saban said it a lot, lean on the GOAT for this one, but focus on the process. Focus on the process. I think that gets overlooked so much that there is a lot of times in my career that I could say that I could lean back on, whether we won or we lost the game. If I go back throughout the week, Monday through Friday, it's what was our process to get to that end result in the game. When you look at how you were teaching, the drills you went over, the situational stuff that we worked on, man, it all comes together because it's a lot of times it's, okay, when I was a wide receiver coach, we get in the game, then we have 4 drops. Well, then I got to go back. I got to look back and see, well, how much was I telling my guys to go out there and catch some balls? How many balls were my guys catching at practice? Then you start charting and you're like, well, dang, my star receiver only caught about, in practice sessions, 10 balls throughout the whole week. That's not enough to be great. That's not enough to create repetition. And so, again, you got to focus on the process. If you're struggling with tackling as a defense, well, you got to go back and say, are we working on tackling? Are you yelling at your guys because they're not getting off of blocks? Well, let's put on your film. Did you work on that during practice? And so I think sometimes when you focus on the process, it helps you out to getting the results you want because now you're working on all those little things. And so that's what you do anyways. When you lose a ball game, you go back and you say, all right, let's go back. Let's focus on the little things and let's just get back to the fundamentals of football. And a lot of times that's when you end up getting back on the right track. And so that's my big thing, man. Just focus on the process.
Coach, it was great to be able to learn from you here today, get some insight into how you think about the game and the things that you do that have brought you success. And just want to wish you and the Delaware State Hornets best of luck here in 2025.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Coaching Coordinator Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Before we go, a big thank you to our partners who help us bring you the best coaching insights every week. Modern Football Technology, Signature Championship Rings, Titan Sensors, the Headset app, Coach Portal, Go Route, and Vertical Raise. These companies are dedicated to helping coaches like you gain an edge on and off the field. You can find out more about our partners in the 10% Toolkit. The link is in the show notes. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your coaching network. Until next time, keep learning, keep leading, and keep making a difference.